What's up, long players? Welcome back to the Long Play Listening Party. One Question Monday. I'm Howie Howard from Mr. Furious Records, joined by Jerry Chapman and you just told me you moved. Your website still says Mount Airy, North Carolina.
Oh, no. I'm in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
You moved to Winston-Salem.
Yes, which
Jerry
is
Chapman,
not far, yeah.
out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. We're going to be listening to Jerry's new song, another song about the river, from Jerry's new EP. And what's the title of the EP?
The EP is called East. Should I expound on that, why it's called East, or?
Go ahead. It's not we're not counting it as my question, but please go ahead and expound.
So I think I mentioned I'm working on a series of EPs, and this EP that's coming out next week, a week from today. It's 5 songs, and they were all so I play in a band with some friends from Charlotte. One of the guys has a little place in Georgetown, South Carolina, which is a coastal town. It's near Myrtle Beach, and we go down there and play. And he's got this sweet little house that's on the Black River in Georgetown. So over a couple years, I had written a series of songs. I either wrote them there at the river or wrote them about the river there. So and Georgetown is east. It's on the coast, so it's east of us. I've started another project with a drummer friend of mine in New York. That one will be called North. I've got 4 tracks that I've started in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico. That'll be south. So I'm not sure what west is going to be yet. Who knows?
I like kind of leaving some space there. And this is great news to me because you did tell me over email that there was a second EP, but I didn't know there was a third and potentially a fourth. So that's exciting for me.
Yeah.
Because this is the first studio official music you've put out. I think we calculated in 15 years.
Yeah.
And it's not that you haven't been busy writing 1,000 songs and playing shows and being a musician, but I'm excited for some new kind of studio Jerry Chapman.
Yeah, me too.
So let me give a little background. I've known you a long time. Your band, Life in General, used to come through Doane College, where I went, and that was one of the highlights of the student life calendar at Doane. And then very quickly, maybe the second time you came through while I was there, Scott and I started opening up for you. That happened at least a couple times. And, after that, at some point, we've maintained an email friendship ever since. And I forget how that started because, at the time that Life in General was coming through Doane, it was very much kind of a big brother. You were kind of the big brother a little bit in terms of the vibe. And so I don't know what caused me to reach out and just start chatting to you or whatever, but we've emailed from time to time. You're one of my best listeners. When I put something out, I'll hear something back from you, which is super cool. I think all of us as musicians love that.
Yeah.
In fact, Nate and I were just talking about that last night as we were recording, which listeners, I think if I have the schedule right in my brain, will not have heard yet when you hear this. Anyway, and you did a song for me for the Mr. 10 compilation on Mr. Furious Records. And we're coming back. Next year is Mr. 20.
Oh, no. Already?
Already, which is crazy. And Corey and I have started dreaming up kind of a wish list. You're on it, obviously.
Done.
As far as an invitation, no one's obliged, of course, but it would be fun to do a Mr. 20 again, and it may be a Mr. 21. We'll see.
Yeah.
But that works.
Time is kind of fluid these days,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the background. I did as I was revisiting. So I'm leading up to my question. As I was listening to some of your music again, which was wonderful, I did notice that you sit between Jeremy Ennick and Jesse Ware on my iPod, which I think is fun. That's good company to be in.
Yeah.
But my question, and I'm going to give you a couple examples to give you a second to think about it. My question is, how do you write your opening lines to songs? / what makes a great opening line? Because you have a lot of them. I'm going to run through a couple. Blue Sky Rider. Outside the county, she counted her curses. I've heard the stories, the clutching of purses. And little bonus, purses comes back in a couple lines later as another little piece of wordplay there. So that's super fun. In another one of your modes about love, the taste of your sweet breath, the salt of morning tears.
I got to cop that. That's a cover though.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So who do we credit for that?
That's a great band called The Choir.
Okay.
They were a California band, but they live in Nashville now. And they're awesome. And they're still around. They're awesome.
We're going to give you partial credit for editorial listening.
That's right. Not only can I write a good first line, I can recognize a good first line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So another Jerry example, Learn to Fly. Who wants to know when they're going to die? I mean, just right for the gut. Love that. And the song we'll be playing at the end of this show, another song about the river. No one needs another song about the river. A bunch of words about the blue sky and drinking wine at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
I mean, it brings me right into the scene. I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
I know I've got the sense memory of that. I can hear the insects. I can feel the wind. I can taste the wine. It's all there. So how do you write these opening lines?
Oh man. The short answer is I have no idea, but there is, I really don't. I mean, and not to get, there's some people, songwriters, they're all zen. They're like, it's just the words are out there, man. You're just a receiver of that. And it's kind of true. I mean, you get lucky sometimes. You just think about something. When I was looking to see if I had any sort of, because I'm in that songwriter club where sometimes we'll get a prompt to write a song about something or use this word or whatever. And I don't recognize a prompt, but I did notice that I wrote it in December of 2020. So we weren't out of the pandemic. It wasn't, and it was right before Christmas, I guess.
So that was pretty deep in the depths and like a turbulent time as people were figuring out what they were comfortable with as far as Christmas plans.
Yeah. But the phrase, no one needs another song about that, I have no idea why I said that. But now I really don't. I mean, it wasn't like I wasn't mad at songs about rivers and nobody was mad at me for writing songs about rivers. But the drinking wine at 3 a.m. there is on one other song on the EP, there's a reference to the 2 a.m. wine club or the 3 a.m. wine club. This band I play in will do, it's funny when Life in General was playing, we'd go back to the Crete Motor Lodge or wherever we stayed and,
right.
and maybe get some PBRs or something like that. But this band, we're adults now, sort of. And one of the guy that has this house down there, we'll finish a gig, a little bar, and we'll all go back. And he's a wine connoisseur. And he's very generous and always breaks out the best stuff for his friends.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a nice, our post gig routine has changed, since the early days, so instead of PBR, it's a nice red wine sitting on a rocking chair by the river.
3 a.m. is still extremely respectable. I don't see 3 a.m. very often.
No, we don't either. But usually we'll try to at least at 2 a.m. And usually, the one thing that hasn't changed is our ability to fool ourselves. We'll go back. We're just going to have, just one glass in bed by midnight. And then next thing you know, it's like, oh, God, it's 3, but it's time well spent. So.
Do you have, I'm going to count this as kind of a follow on, but is it different every time, or do you have kind of a process that you use? Do you always start at the first line of the song and write through, or do you mix around, or how does it come to you?
I think it usually is some sort of theme, but I think it more often than not may be the first line of either the first line of the song or some sort of lyric that becomes the chorus, which I guess are the two things that, not to discount, a good bridge or, a great third verse, but the two things that can hook you, are the start of the song, and then you want the chorus to be there. So it usually is that. This song certainly was started with the first line.
Top down. Yeah. And, I noticed, it's cool that you say that, because as I was listening specifically for some first lines to pick out as examples, I definitely noticed that, if the first line didn't super jump out at me, often the first line of the chorus would. And so I didn't pull any of those as example. I kept the examples like very literally the first line of the song, but I noticed that in my listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to clarify the timeline. We're recording on June 14th. I think we said this episode is going to come out on June 26th. So I think that means the EP is out. Is that right?
It's not out, but yes, by the time this airs, or
right, when this airs, when people hear it, the EP will be out. And where can people hear it and buy it?
It will be on all the usual services. I'm not pressing CDs for this one. I think that I do still like CDs for some things. And as somebody who plays live, I want to have at least a small batch of CDs in case somebody wants it. But it'll be on all the streaming services for sure.
All the streaming. Cool.
I've got a Bandcamp page. It'll be on there. Yeah.
And we'll link to all that. Will you allow me a bonus question?
Yes, I will. Of course. Can I tell you my second favorite opening line from the EP?
Yeah. Please.
So there's another song about that beach and that river and the people down there. But the line is, they say you don't need music on the beach, but I can't see how it hurts. Because I read, it was one of those lists of, life lessons. It was like, if you need music on a beach, you're doing it wrong. I'm like, I get that. Right. I mean,
yeah,
but I was like, but also, a good Allman Brothers tune can go a long way to helping you enjoy your White Claw,
I love the line because that perfectly, you're capturing both the original sentiment there and kind of your response to it, or the alternate, the other side of that coin. So yeah, there you go.
So what's your follow-up question? Sorry.
Yeah, here's my cheat question, and this I'm going to give a little background on this too. I'll ask the question and then give the background to give you a second to think about it. The cheat question is, tell me about the bass rig on Making God Laugh. Because there's some gnarly bass tones on that record. And honestly, those bass tones have been more influential to me personally than you may realize, in terms of McCartney style, a really active bass line and a distorted bass, a moderately distorted bass line paired with cleaner guitars to make a band sound that has like this wonderful mix of aggression and a more vintage, like it's not like full on Foo Fighters alt rock or whatever,
right?
And that's, you can trace that formula through what I've done all the way through to fight songs, right? That's what fight songs is that that type of approach to making the bass the driving instruments and letting the guitars be cleaner, maybe be jazzier and chimier and do some other things that they can't do if they're super distorted.
Yeah.
So what do you remember about the bass rig on Making God Laugh?
I certainly played my Music Man bass, which is sitting right over there.
All right.
It's 1980 something. I mean, I'm not a tech guy, so I don't know, but it's a really cool bass and it sounds awesome. And at the time, so bass was my first instrument really playing in a band that was any good. I mean, like any kid, I picked up guitar and learned how to play, Dust in the Wind or Blackbird or whatever, but then I figured, if you can play bass, then you're going to get the gig more often.
Right. You can work.
So I was playing in an alt rock band and I played the Music Man and I had this, It was an Ampeg V4 head, and it was a guitar head because there is a V4B for bass, but it was V4. And I had a little Mesa Boogie 210 and this 18-inch speaker and a big scoop. The whole thing was 6 feet tall. It was ridiculous, but it sounded awesome. Now, I can't remember what I used on the recording. I don't know. I mean, that might have been a time, that was like 2000. So it might have been a time where you still kind of did bring in stuff, and there wasn't modeling amps or computer stuff back then. So it was probably that V4 head with probably just the Mesa Boogie 210.
Wow. So you would have had to crank that head.
Yeah. Yeah. And now I might have used some fuzz boxes. I can't remember. No, I don't think I did. I mean, because it's not really that kind of fuzz.
It doesn't strike me as super fuzzy. I mean, I'm surprised. So I've actually got a V4. I won't turn the camera, but I've got a V4 over here. And it's so goddamn loud. I mean, it's loud.
Yes. And it's heavy.
It's heavy. It's so heavy. It's like 80 pounds maybe.
Yeah.
And to get the grind on some of those tunes, I mean, you would have really had to smash it.
Yeah.
But maybe with the 10s, I mean, maybe. Or maybe it's tape, maybe there's a lot of, was it done to tape? Was there a lot of tape saturation maybe?
I think so.
That could be part of it.
But I don't think I was using a fuzz box or anything, but it's, I hadn't thought about that. I haven't listened to that record. I don't love that record a lot. I like parts of it. I was still kind of learning how to sing, and everything is a little stiff, but it's not awful. But it's interesting. I do like that sound of the fuzz bass with acoustic guitars,
Yeah. Well, in life in general, you would mess around with the phaser and some different effects in life in general too. But I will ride for Making God Laugh. I think it's really good. I mean, I hear you maybe on a couple of the tunes. I mean, I don't hear it myself, but I can imagine how you as the artist, maybe say, this could have been a different way or whatever. But I really love that record a lot, and I encourage people to check it out because it's I'm really glad it's a piece of the overall mix of your discography.
Yeah. And it's a scrappy little record. It was done really quick. I played everything on it, and it was done really quickly. As I recall, it was just like there were a couple days where, maybe the band had time off, and I was like, well, let's just go in the studio and record. So it was like, I think it was 2 or 3 days.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I love that about it. I love stuff that's done fast and that's kind of scrappy and cool. Well, thank you for answering my bonus question.
Of course.
Listeners, you are going to hear Jerry's new song, another song about the river, off the EP East, which you can hear now on all the streaming platforms. Grab it at Jerry's Bandcamp, which I will link in the show notes. And until next time, this has been One Question Monday on the Long Play Listening Party. Later.
No one needs another song about the river, a bunch of words about the blue sky and drinking wine at 3 a.m. We're all tired of all the songs that mention sunshine, playing frisbee on the beach. I know I'm right, but then again, we can always be reminded of the things that make life work. So easy to be grateful, sometimes we won't. So many hidden treasures, no such thing as guilty pleasures. You either like it or you don't. Playing songs on the stage or on the back porch, even when we move it online, a good investment of your time. There's no shame in feeling joy for just the small things, like the way the water moves. I could be wrong, but I don't mind. We can always be reminded of the things that make life work. So easy to be grateful, sometimes we won't. So many hidden treasures, no such thing as guilty pleasures. You either like it or you don't. always be reminded of the things that make life work. So easy to be grateful, sometimes we won't. So many hidden treasures, no such thing as guilty pleasures. You either like it or you don't. No one needs another song about the river, a bunch of words about the blue sky, and drinking wine at 3 a.m.